This morning, I did it again. I put the kettle on, opened the cabinet, and took down 2 cups without even thinking about it. One for me and one for Robert. His old ceramic cup is still there, near the back. It has a little faded mark by the handle. Nothing special, really. I don't even know why I keep noticing that part. I set both cups on the table and then I looked at the chair across from me. And for a second, I forgot. It has been 8 years since Robert passed. 8 years. You would think a person would stop doing things like that after a while. But some habits do not leave when the person does. I stood there with the tea getting cold, looking at that empty chair, feeling a little foolish, and a little grateful too. It is not an expensive cup, not even a particularly pretty one. Just an old ceramic mug, cream-colored, with a little faded mark near the handle. I think it happened years ago when Robert knocked it against the sink. He said it gave the cup character. I told him it made the cup look chipped. He used that same cup almost every morning. I have plenty of other cups in the cabinet, too many probably. Some with flowers on them, a few Sarah gave me for Christmas, and one with a little red bird on the side that I only use in December. But I never got rid of Robert's. I tried once, or at least I took it out and put it in a box with a few things for donation. Then I stood there looking at it for a minute and put it right back in the cabinet. Sarah offered to help me organize the kitchen a while ago. She meant well, she always does. But I told her no. Some things do not need organizing. Some things are allowed to stay a little messy. Robert had a very particular way of starting the day. He would sit down with the newspaper and fold it so loudly you would think he was trying to win an argument with it. Every morning the same thing. Fold, shake, fold again. I used to tell him the neighbors could probably hear him reading the sports section. And the tea, goodness. I would make it for him, set it right in front of him, and then he would leave it sitting there until it was nearly cold. Then he would complain that it was cold. He was supposed to be careful with sugar because of his diabetes. He knew that. I knew that. The doctor certainly knew that. But every now and then, when he thought I was not looking, he would add one more spoonful. I always noticed. I usually let him get away with it. Football season was a different matter. If his team lost on Sunday, Monday morning could be a little difficult. He would sit there behind that newspaper like the entire house had personally disappointed him. He was not always easy, Robert, but he was very much himself. Back then, those mornings did not feel important. They were just mornings. I would be standing at the sink, thinking about the dishes or whether we needed milk. Sometimes I was making a grocery list on the back of an old envelope. Sometimes Robert was sitting right there across from me, hidden behind that newspaper of his. We were in the same room, but we were not always really talking. Not in any meaningful way, anyway. I suppose that is normal after so many years. You start to believe there will always be another breakfast, another cup of tea, another chance to ask what the other person is thinking. I have tried to remember our last ordinary morning together. I cannot. Maybe Robert said something about the weather. Maybe he asked if we were out of milk. Maybe he complained about the newspaper being late. I honestly do not know. And that bothers me more than I like to admit. Because whatever he said, I must not have been paying very much attention. There is one silly little argument I still remember. It was not important. That is probably why it stayed with me. One morning, Robert finished his tea and left the cup sitting beside the sink. Not in the sink, beside it. I had already cleaned the kitchen once and I was tired. I do not even remember why I was so tired that day. Maybe I had been up late grading papers. Maybe my knees were bothering me. It could have been anything. I looked at that cup and said, "Robert, I am your wife. I am not your maid." He looked up from the newspaper and said, "I was going to move it," which of course meant he had not been going to move it at all. I said something else. He said something stubborn back. Nothing terrible, nothing you would remember if you heard it from the next room, but we were quiet with each other for most of the day. That evening, Robert stopped at the grocery store and came home with a jar of strawberry jam, the kind I liked, the one that was a little more expensive than the others. He put it on the counter and said, "They had your jam." That was all. He did not apologize, not exactly, and I did not either. I just put the kettle on and made tea. That was how we were sometimes. not very graceful, not very good with speeches, but after all those years, I knew what the jam meant. The first morning after Robert was gone, I came into the kitchen and did not know what to do with myself. That sounds strange, I know. I had been making tea in that kitchen for years. I could have done it with my eyes closed. Fill the kettle, reach for the cup, open the little tin where I keep the tea bags. But that morning, every small thing felt unfamiliar. I took down one cup, just one. Then I stood there for a moment with the cabinet still open. The wall clock was ticking like it always did. The grandchildren's drawings were still on the refrigerator. There was a yellow sun one of the boys had drawn with far too many rays around it. I remember looking at that for some reason. The morning light was coming across the table. The kettle made the same little sound it always made when the water was ready. Everything in that room was exactly where it had been the day before. Except Robert was not sitting in his chair. I carried my tea to the table and sat down across from that empty seat. I tried to drink it, I really did, but I think I only took 1 or 2 sips before it went cold. I just sat there, holding the cup with both hands. I do not remember crying very much that morning. I think I was still waiting for the room to make sense again. It has been 8 years now, and the strange thing is, not every morning feels sad anymore. Some mornings, I take Robert's cup down by accident and I smile a little. I shake my head at myself and put it right back in the cabinet. Other mornings, it feels heavier than that. Sometimes I let the cup sit on the table for a few seconds before I move it. I do not really know why. Maybe I am not ready to put it away immediately. Maybe I just need one quiet moment. But then I make my tea. I sit down. I look through the mail, or I write a few things on my grocery list. If the weather is decent, I go outside and check the tomatoes. The roses usually need something. They always do. I still drive myself to the grocery store. I still go to church on Sundays. I still stand in the kitchen and decide what to make for dinner, even when it is only for me. Life did not stop. It changed. There is a difference. I miss Robert. I suppose I always will. But I am not sitting here crying every morning. Some days are good days. Some days are quiet days. Some days that old cup catches me off guard. And then I put it back in the cabinet and carry on. I wonder if you have something like that in your home too. Just some little ordinary thing you cannot bring yourself to put away. Maybe it is in a drawer somewhere, or tucked into the pocket of an old jacket. Maybe it is a recipe card with handwriting you recognize before you even read the words. For me, it is that cup. It is funny how grief does that. It does not always come when you expect it to. Sometimes it is not a photograph or an anniversary or some big moment. Sometimes it is just a cup sitting in the wrong place on the table, and for a second, the whole room feels different. Sarah tried to help me clear out the kitchen cabinets once. She came over on a Saturday afternoon with a few empty boxes and said, very gently, "Mom, maybe we could donate some of the things you do not use anymore." She was right, of course. I had bowls stacked behind bowls, plates I had not touched in years, a little serving dish with blue flowers around the edge that I could not even remember buying. So we started sorting. Keep, donate, keep, donate. Then I saw Robert's cup near the back of the cabinet. I picked it up, looked at it for a second, and placed it behind the other mugs instead of putting it in the box. Sarah noticed. She did not say anything. She just looked at me for a moment, then reached for another stack of plates and asked whether I still needed the small dessert bowls. I said yes, even though I probably do not, and that was the end of it. Sarah is good that way. She does not always know exactly what to say, neither do I, but sometimes not saying anything is the kindest thing. Robert's cup is still sitting here on the table. I suppose I have left it out long enough for today. Sometimes I look at it and wish I had understood how much those ordinary mornings mattered while they were still ordinary. I wish I had listened a little more carefully when Robert talked about the weather, or the newspaper, or whether we needed milk. But I do not think we understand everything at the right time. Maybe we are not supposed to. Maybe some things only become important after they are gone. Anyway, I should put this cup back. It belongs in the cabinet, near the back, where it has always been. If you'd like to sit with me again sometime, you're welcome to subscribe. I think I'll keep making these little videos. My tea is getting cold again. Robert would have laughed at that.